tuning in to another video. Obviously, this is your average vet rider, or the big cat. So I just figured we're going to play all of the Test B here from the CORCS Sprint Enduro in Penrose, Colorado. I figured I'd do a little voiceover and talk you through kind of what I was seeing and what was going on, and we'll see if this video gets any more likes than normal. So obviously here he does his countdown for 5 seconds once it's time to go. Everyone starts, and here we go, we're off. This track was course was extremely difficult. It was mostly one hard, like almost like concrete hard rut all the way around the whole course, and it was covered by like 8 inches of silt, so you'd be going along and all of a sudden you would just drop into it. So this was super challenging. I've never done any kind of enduro or sprint enduro or anything like that, and this, I would say, this is definitely the hardest dirt bike race I've ever done. I was wildly unprepared here. So the beginning pretty easy, you just flowing back and forth, and then as we come up, we're gonna enter the woods here. So when we get in the woods, like I used to trail ride quite a bit, and I consider myself a fairly good trail rider. So this part was relatively easy, nothing too serious as it would be. So I was enjoying this, but not long into it. So right here, a nice little stall for me, because the thing about off-road riding, especially this particular one, like we did a GP earlier in the year, me and Lambo, and you could go out and they do a sight lap, and also they have this like weird class in the classes that go before you, where you go out and just do like a lap to see the track, and then come in and know the track before your race takes off. So you see here a little bit more looking back for me than you would see at a motocross race or a GP or a hare scramble, just because with this type of off-road racing, if somebody comes up behind you, I guess maybe enduro etiquette or promoter etiquette, they really would like you to move over for somebody that's faster. They say, like, if they caught you from behind, they're already beating you, so please let them buy in, don't harm them, so you can get the best time they possibly can. So out here pretty much by myself, honestly. Sprint enduro wise, there's not a whole bunch going on. In a little bit here, one guy will catch me. I don't know how many guys caught me on this loop. This is my very first loop ever, and this is Test B at the Sprint Enduro. So this is relatively easy or whatever. Obviously first lap you can't, like, or I didn't jump like these things all the way like I would, because obviously they're easy. Even, you know, I normally ride motocross, so motocross style obstacles are relatively easy, but on the first lap you're coming up to everything blind, so really need to, like, see. Was a little bit confused here, so now I gotta make this turn. Yeah, I did like this section. We were getting into some rocks and stuff, but this was probably the higher speed section of the course and of both tests, so it was fun. But we started to get into some like shale rock, which I haven't really had a whole lot of experience with. Where I come from in the Northeast, we don't have a whole lot of that. We have like granite and things like that, but this stuff with, like, there's a stair step section that's coming up in a little bit here. Basically just like vertical rock while going uphill. And the shale, like, you would hit it and it would almost collapse on you a little bit. So it was a weird feeling. It was definitely interesting and a good experience, and something that I hadn't done before previously. So I definitely did enjoy it and thought it was pretty fun. Nothing too serious going on here, just some back and forth or whatever. There is a Yamaha coming up on me, and the guy actually, I think this guy that passes me did relatively good. So the day ended up being about 100 degrees. The truck temperature gauge said 108 degrees, which is a little bit crazy if you ask me. I'm from about 30 minutes-esque from the Canadian border in the Northeast, and 100+ degree weather, I don't do it. And it doesn't help that I'm on the chunky side, so I think it means it got even more towards me. And with like a hair scribble or GP, I will hydrate all week, and I didn't really know what to expect here, so I didn't hydrate nearly good enough for 108 degree weather, if that's truly what it was. So So here we are. We're getting a little closer to that particular rock section I was talking about, but this Yamaha is coming up on me. I did race the senior B class here, so first time ever in a senior class, and I got worked by the other guys. So I thought good, or what I believe to be a good trail rider, would be good enough to excel at this, and that was not the case at all, actually. But I move over for the Yamaha. He's going pretty quick, so it was so dusty here. I swear it hadn't rained for what seemed like right here. Look, so that's rock steps, and he was stopped there, so I was a little bit hesitant and didn't go up through there. Later in it, if you want to watch the vlog style video from it, later in the second time I went through the test, it wasn't an issue. Like, I don't struggle with that stuff normally, but he was stalled there, and so I second guessed myself and then stopped. So it was a little different. So we've made it through there, and now I'm frustrated with myself that I got past, and I'm trying to go faster to catch up, but he's already gone. So this Penrose Enduro is interesting too. It's quite a ways away from Cheyenne, where I live, and we had to get up real early to get there, which was surprising that Lambo made it on time, because Lambo really never makes it on time. So it was surprising to see him show up. So we both kind of didn't do as well as we would have expected on this, and honestly at this point too, I'm realizing, wow, a 450 is not the right bike for this type of racing. And I kind of knew that. I mean, I do follow enduro racing and off-road racing and GNCC racing and stuff like that, and I know a lot of times in the bigger series, like the guys who ride 450s at maybe GNCC or whatever drop to a little bit smaller bike for the enduro stuff and everything. But to my understanding, this was a sprint enduro, and it was supposed to be a lot faster pace with enduro elements, is what I thought. But that was certainly, I guess it probably, I mean, to your average enduro rider, maybe that's what it does look like, and maybe that's what they could have done. But for me, being as, you know, green as you could be in this type of racing, it certainly wasn't the high speed type of stuff that I thought it was going to be. So this test is up in the mountain portion of mountainous, I don't know what the proper word, hill portion of the testing up here in test B and test A, which maybe I'll do one of these with a voiceover, and maybe we'll get Lambo in here and we'll talk our way through it so you can get Lambo's perspective. Was like ran along the water for the river, so that one was kind of, it was like a cooler scene, but holy baloney did it have some huge sand whoops. And I think the second time I went through test A, I hit like 6 trees in the same spot, and I had already given up on the GoPro at that point because I was frustrated, overheated, struggling, not happy with the 450, so I didn't have the GoPro on at that point. So I did this for this test, like I was up on this higher level and then dropped down into the lower level. The lower level was definitely the easier path, I think, maybe, but and then this kind of like tightens up on the top of a hill, and it's kind of has some whoop-esque type things going on in it. So it's a fun little section. It was just, you know, it's all a learning process when you start a new type of racing. This year so far too, I was talking about today, like so far this year, Team Nuclear Off-Road, me and Lambo, we've yet to race the same style of race twice. Our first race of the year was a GP at Aztec in Colorado Springs. Our second race of the year was a vintage motocross race at Jewel MX in Watkins, Colorado. Our third race was here at the Sprint Enduro in Penrose. And our next race will be the Wara Egerton Hare Scramble. So, and then we also have another Hare Scramble with Wara 2 weeks after that. So that will be the first time that we've repeated the same style of racing. And then 2 days after the second Wara I was talking about in Glen Rock, Wyoming, I have my first mountain bike race. So I don't know if I'm really stealing the idea from old Ryan Sipes, because I am a tad bit older than him and had the idea for a while, but I seem to be just racing everything. And I want to be successful at racing everything, but this was just not a good step. So I think I definitely need to do a little bit more work in tight trails and things of that nature, and then try and get some redemption on one of these sprint enduros would, be the hope. And when I decided I wanted to try and race everything, I wanted to do trials and race super sport bikes too, but at the moment, especially with the economy, it's just not feasible. Back in maybe 2016, I had 7 motorcycles with 7 motorcycle loans, and maybe that would have been the time to do it because the economy was good. I had a few less just credit card bills and things of that nature. I probably could have got that job done, but so far this year we're doing GPs, motocross, sprint enduros, hare scrambles, and racing mountain bikes. So it should be a pretty fun season. So I'd say we were getting close to the end here. I think my first lap was around 13 minutes. So here it got a little bit easier, I would say, as far as the course layout and things of that nature. Like this test B was definitely, I would say, the easier test. Obviously there were still struggles everywhere. There's a pretty big hill climb in test A that I was worried about Lambo doing, because there was a bunch of really large rocks and there was a vertical wall in the hill about halfway up, so you'd have to hit it, and then once you landed, get back on the gas real hard. So I was a little stressed out about the prospect of Lambo trying to tackle that, because I haven't had the opportunity to teach him any type of off-road style skills and things of that nature. We're actually going trail riding for the first time of the year on Friday. So, but he did good. I mean, he made it through both tests, and I really was worried about whether or not he would be able to get that job done. So I've been in these type of situations before, as far as these, I don't know what you would call them, gullies or whatever, and I usually do like them. But man, on the 450, it just wasn't working. And this is the first time I've ever done these with a 450. And I ride, this particular bike is my hare scramble bike, but it's the only off-road bike I have at the moment because I only have the 2 bikes. I have my 21 CRF 450R, which is my motocross bike, and then I have this 22 CRF 450RX. So I've been in these type of riding situations before, and I do really enjoy them. I do find them fun to be down in like the crevice or whatever you want to call it. So it's been a while too with off-camber turns. The motocross scene around here in like Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, they don't have a whole lot of off-camber stuff. So it's been a while since I was really dealing with a legitimate off-camber turns. So, and obviously these two have rocks in them, so that makes it a tad bit more challenging. Overall, in the moment and on the day, like, I was really frustrated with my riding, and the course and the heat really gets the better of me. I'm just not a heat creature, and I was really frustrated with the whole situation. But thinking back on it and everything, I actually did have a pretty good time, because sometimes with the enduro stuff, when you're a motocross racer your whole life and then you go out and you do something that is a little bit more technical and everything, you kind of like are like, wow, I can actually do that kind of riding. I just maybe am not as proficient in it at the moment as I could be. So I let this guy by. I think this is a Suzuki here. This is the only other guy that passed me, and as you can see, we're coming up at the end here. So you got to come up, meet the guy with the scanner, come to a complete stop, and they scan you, and that's the end of that test. And you have to do it 4 times each test. There's test A and test B 4 times. Yikes. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know how this voiceover thing goes. I've never done one of these, but keep it pinned.
I'm sorry I talked you into this.
Is it rough?
About 90% of it's above your level.
Fuck.
There's like rock climbs,
Oh boy.
shale everywhere.